If you have sex with a safety, is it considered safe sex? Grossi Posse Packer Nation, welcome to another episode of the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom Grossi, and what we're going to take a look at are the top 8 free agent safeties that are available and would, at least in my opinion, fit the Green Bay Packers, and then we're going to sneak in a little extra one at the very end, which we'll get to. A big shout out to all the new Patreons out there. Ever since the playoffs began, I have put out a video and/or streamed every single day, and it is slowly consuming my life, and I feel a mental break is literally just moments away. But I'll try to get through this video first, so thank you for the support. Now, this upcoming draft is very defensive heavy, meaning we got lots of pass rushers, we got lots of D linemen, we got lots of linebackers. We got the whole shebang. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Green Bay Packers address the pass rusher position as their number 12 pick. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't get someone in free agency, which is why in the near future there will be a free agency video looking at specifically just pass rushers. But I did want to take a look at the safety position. Ever since Clinton Dix wound up getting traded from the team, it has kind of left a hole not really being filled by just about anyone, and that includes Tramon Williams. And so this is definitely an area and position that is in high need for the Green Bay Packers. I wouldn't also be surprised if they address it via the draft, but picking up one of these guys could go a long way in sturdying up that backfield. So with that being said, let's take a look at numero uno, Earl Thomas. Now, Earl Thomas, throughout this entire season, and as we've gotten closer and closer to the end, Earl Thomas is the guy that I constantly get messages about him coming to the Packers, about how he would be such a great fit, blah, 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 blah. Earl Thomas, of course, coming off a big injury in which he held out for a contract and then decided, you know what, I'm going to go play for the Seahawks. Let's see how this goes. And he breaks his leg, and obviously was very perturbed about that, telling the Seahawks that they were number one as he was carted off the field. And I got to say, I do feel for Earl Thomas in that, he did what he thought was right for the team, and now I feel like you're going to see more players go the Le'Veon Bell route, in which they are going to hold out the entire season because they can't risk injury. This guy is now coming out of a major injury with a broken leg, about to hit 30 years old, and it's gonna hit his wallet, and it's going to really, I think, at least in some part, reduce the amount of money that he would have gotten somewhere else. Now, Earl Thomas still is 29 years old. He's been in the league since 2010. He's been in the Pro Bowl 6 times in his career. 28 interceptions, 684 tackles, 67 67 passes deflected. The guy is obviously a stud and showed even this season that he could still play at a very, very high level. Now, the contract that he was under with the Seattle Seahawks, he was making $10 million a year. He was signed to a 4-year, $40 million deal. And so him hitting the free agency market, considering that he is the number one safety on a lot of people's lists, he's going to be fetching at least a high price tag. I would imagine anywhere between $10 to $15 million a year. When it comes to this draft being very defense heavy, these safeties, it may reduce the amount of money they're going to wind up getting in the free agency market, but there's no doubt in my mind that Earl Thomas is going to get picked up. And while the price tag is definitely hefty, you are getting a 6-time Pro Bowler. The only concerns that I have, besides obviously the financial aspect, is the fact that this guy is coming off a major injury. You don't know how he's going to recover for it. He is going to be turning 30 years old. Those are a couple things that give me some slight pause, but he would definitely be an upgrade for the Green Bay Packers. Number dos, that's 2 for our Spanish-speaking friends, is good old Landon Collins of the New York Giants. Landon Collins is a mere 25 years old. I am 3 years older than him. He's been in the league since 2013. He's Pro Bowl 3 times. Has 13 interceptions, 394 tackles, and 49 passes defended. He played nearly the entire season this year, but he had a shoulder injury, which he will need surgery on. He was still under his rookie contract with the Giants, so if he does hit the free market, you can imagine that he is going to get a big payday. And again, the nice things about Landon Collins is, one, he's shown that he's a really good player. He's super duper young. The injury thing does, give me some pause a little bit, but I think this guy is heading for a really big payday. But if you wanted to essentially lock up the Packers' future at that position, the safety position, I think Landon Collins would be a great addition to the Green Bay Packers. It would just cost you some moolah. Now, speaking of moolah, a guy who basically bet on himself signing a one-year contract with the Texans this year is the good old Honey Badger. He is 26 years old. He's been in the league since 2013. Been in the Pro Bowl once, 13 interceptions, 394 tackles, 49 passes defended. And this guy, basically coming out from Arizona, bet on himself like, all right, I'm going to go sign a one-year short-term deal with the Texans, and I'm going to ball out. And he had a pretty good season. The guy is a super-duper consistent player. He's really aggressive. He signed a $6.5 million deal. I have to imagine that he is going to get a better deal coming into this year, showing that he can still play at that high level. I would love to have him on this team because I think that he could bring that kind of like aggressiveness that we definitely need to that secondary. And he's also one of those players that you could sign for a number of years and know that he is going to be able to play and maintain that high level. Number 4, arguably the guy who is the most expensive on this list, depending on what Earl Thomas gets, but that's LaMarcus Joyner of the LA Rams. 28 years old. He's been in the league since 2014. He is played cornerback. He's also played, obviously, safety, 4 interceptions, 305 tackles, and 25 passes deflected. The LA Rams, they franchise tagged him for $11 million this year. Part of that secondary of the LA Rams, you saw previous members of that secondary go to teams like the Jets for a crap ton of money and not work out. I'm a little hesitant about LaMarcus Joyner because while these numbers aren't bad by any stretch of the imagination, the fact that he is already 28 years old, he doesn't really have the numbers like some of these other guys on the list, and he was also fetching a big price tag, even though it was obviously being franchise tagged. I kind of want to stick away from him a little bit, but I also can't doubt that literally anybody with a pulse at this point might be better at safety. Like, we really need somebody. Like, bad. And LaMarcus Joyner could fit that need. I don't think Brian Gutekunst is going to spend that kind of money on this guy when there's other talent there. But who knows? I could be wrong. And depending what the guys in front of him get signed for, that really could dictate what kind of contract he's going to fetch in the free agency. Number 5, good old Eric Reid. Now, I mentioned Eric Reid in the offseason last year, and I thought the Packers should sign him. And it took forever for the guy to get signed, but he did get a one-year deal with the Carolina Panthers, and now he is a free agent once again. Eric Reid, 27 years old, 39 passes deflected. He's been in the league since 2013. He was in the Pro Bowl his first year, 11 interceptions, 398 tackles. And he was signed last year by the Panthers for like $1.6 million, super duper cheap. If you know who Eric Reid is, one of the big reasons why he was it seemed like he was blacklisted from the league, is he was one of the guys who was kneeling during the national anthem with Colin Kaepernick. But this guy was one of the best safeties, and considering how young he was, like, I'm shocked. I really am shocked that this guy was able to fall that far down and get signed for that amount of money, considering it was so cheap. I would love for the Packers to take a chance on this guy. He's a really good player, and I think that he would be a great addition to the Packers for a cheap price. So whether or not he is going to be like that guy that's going to bring you into the future, I think he can provide a really good, solid fix for that secondary. Then, moving on to number 6, another guy who is finishing out his rookie contract and a part of the Chicago Bears, Adrian Amos. 25 years old, been in the league since 2015. Only 3 interceptions, 269 tackles, and 18 passes deflected. This is another guy who, again, he's not the best secondary that the Bears had. One of the few guys that there's going to be some turnover within that Bears defense. This is another guy who can kind of just like slip right into the defense and really at least be an automatic upgrade. I don't think you're not going to be signing an all-star. You're not going to be signing, the guy who is going to be like, oh my God, he's going to be a shutdown safety. But he is going to provide some improvement at that position. Also, considering he'd already played the Packers twice, being in the North and he knows all the division foes twice, wouldn't be the worst thing to pick him up. Why not? Let's start poaching from the Bears. The NFC North always poaches from us. Never forget Brett Favre. Never forget. Number 7, we got Trey Boston. 26 years old, 27 passes deflected, been in the league since 2014. He had 11 interceptions, 3 of them coming off his last season, 262 tackles. He was originally in Carolina, then went to the Chargers, and then last year was in the Arizona Cardinals locker room, and he was paid $2 million a year. This is another guy, he's young, he's athletic. The fact that he was making plays and played pretty consistently last year, I think would be a good pickup for the Packers. One of those guys that, again, not going to light the world on fire, but I wouldn't mind even picking up a couple of these guys just to be good, solid players back there while we maybe potentially draft a young safety at the end of the first round or in some of the later rounds so we can essentially develop him. But again, at least have someone back there that we know that we're not going to get burnt every single play. And so again, signed for $2 million. I don't think he's going to come into a huge payday here, but I think he could sign him for relatively on the cheap. And then finally, Kenny Vaccaro, who is 27 years old. It's been in the league since 2013, 9 interceptions, 443 tackles, 34 passes deflected. Was on the Saints for a long time. Then he just signed with the Tennessee Titans for $1.5 million. I think there's a total cap of like 2.5. But another solid player, had a solid year last year. Again, one of those guys, he's in his late 20s, just a solid body back there. Any one of those guys I can really see just like kind of plugging in and saying like, okay, you are going to be a fix. We'll sign you to a 2 or 3 year contract and we'll kind of see how it goes. And again, considering if you put me back there in the safety position, I don't want to say I'd be an upgrade, but like at least I would get in the way of receivers. So I feel like he could also be an outlier. I don't know if he's going to be targeted. I don't know what Gutekunst is thinking. He might go for a superstar signing on that defense, considering we haven't had a shutdown safety in quite some time. Or he might just go for those solid players just to like plug in the holes. Or he might just go with the draft. But that's one of those options as well. Now, the final option that I do want to talk about is not in regards to bringing an outside player into the Green Bay Packers, even though I think that would be very helpful, but instead converting one of our cornerbacks over into the safety position. No, Tramon Williams, not you. And that is good old Josh Jackson. Now, I've gotten a bunch of questions about Josh Jackson, considering he's had a rookie season. And what I mean by that is a lot of people are already down on Josh Jackson and like kind of crapping on him, saying like, oh, he's so disappointing. Do you think he can improve? What have you? Josh Jackson, he didn't have any picks this year besides the preseason, 49 tackles, didn't get a whole lot of playing time. God, he sucks in man coverage. It's pretty brutal to watch. And this is why, kids, I said during the draft, when all of you were like, we need to pick Josh Jackson first, I said, nay, we don't need to pick Josh Jackson first because he had 1 year. He played 1 year of college ball in which it was lights out. He was great. It was wonderful. He was a ball hawk, getting picks, pass deflected, bam, 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 bam. But he had 1 year of playing experience. And so the fact that he only had that amount of experience, then coming into the NFL, he's going to need to adjust. So do I think that Josh Jackson could be a great cornerback? Absolutely. But at the same time, I don't think it's completely out of the realm of questioning to move him or convert him into the safety position. You look at this year, and obviously the way that they drafted him to be a cornerback, right? They threw him out there, and they're like, mixed results, especially when you compare him against Jair Alexander. And so that being said, coming out of the draft, right? He even said so himself, he's versatile enough to play any position, including safety. There was a Packers scout that compared him to Micah Hyde of being able to transition to like that safety cornerback position. And the fact that he's not good in man coverage, he is much, much better in zone coverage, able to kind of read the quarterback and do what he did in college and not get blown away by receivers and kind of get also out-wrestled for the ball. So I think that this wouldn't be the worst idea. However, I don't think that this should be viewed as a permanent fix. I think that this is going to take time for him to adjust. Obviously, he's going to have the offseason if we decide to go with this to adjust to that system, working with Mike Pett in another year, because as a cornerback right now, I don't know how Josh Jackson fits within our scheme. We do want those guys who are great in man coverage, who are aggressive, and so maybe moving him back in safety would be best for the Packers and also his career. But I, again, would if there's one position that we dip our toe into the free agency waters this year, I would really push for the safety position, because edge rushers, there's a ton of depth with this upcoming draft. And I know, we want to get a sure thing. I get that. And we still could, because we'll do another video on free agents that just happen to be pass rushers. But I would like some experience back there, and I don't mean Tramon Williams. No disrespect to Tramon Williams, just that he's 6,000 years old, and no. Just no. So again, I called Tramon Williams a Band-Aid last year at the beginning of the season. Well, it's time to rip that Band-Aid off and put something a little bit more permanent there. Get some Neosporin on that bad boy, because we are bleeding out. But let me know what you think. Which one of these guys would you like to see on the Green Bay Packers? Which ones do you think are most likely to come to Green Bay? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. You can always check me out at TomGrossiComedy.com, TomGrossI Comedy, or on Tom Grossi Comedy on all social medias, Twitters, Patreons, Instagrams, Facebooks, all that thing. Check out Packcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, and of course here on YouTube multiple times per week, too many times per week. We'll also be streaming both the AFC and NFC Championship games on Sunday. So that'll be exciting, and I'll see you there. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.